Hello, everyone. We are here again for episode number 2 of the MW Sports Show. If you forgot, I am Mr. M, and Mr. W will be here in just a minute. Today, we will talk about some storylines in the NFL's Week 10 games and plenty more. So, Mr. W, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, then. Uh, we might as well start here with the Green Bay Packers, who took a tough loss yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're technically still alive. The NFC, 7 seed is still open. Not too many teams. I mean, the Vikings are starting to look better there, but definitely it's not over. But I think from the start, you could kind of envision this is a young roster. There are going to be some growing pains, and hopefully we can start to get 7 wins or so, and just have some improvement, I guess.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't think it was ever going to be a season where we saw, the success that we've become accustomed to. But I think that we've seen a team that competes every week, and while it's at times really frustrating to watch, and we can't seem to string together 4 good quarters, it is a young team, and they're going out and competing every week. And I think as long as we see growth, it'll be a successful year.
Yeah, and I think the last couple games, obviously we took care of the Rams at home, and Jordan Love looked efficient in that game, and he looked quite good from when I was watching against the Steelers. Obviously, at the end, threw a couple interceptions to lose the game, but definitely not a horrible loss. We had some tougher losses earlier in the year, and I think another thing to remember is Aaron Rodgers' first season. We were 6-10. We lost a lot of close games. Um, it's kind of seeming kind of similar so far with Jordan Love, and definitely that doesn't mean Jordan Love is going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I think he definitely has time to improve, and hopefully this season can continue to be the improvement that we're looking for.
Yeah, I think it all just comes down to when it comes to that time, whether he's shown enough to go ahead and give him that second contract. I think that'll be a big decision when it comes time for the organization and the direction of the squad.
Yeah, so currently the Packers stand at 3-6. As we just said, they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in their latest game. Their next game is against the Chargers at home. Seems like it could be a tough game, but at the same time, it's the NFL. It's definitely tough to predict. So, and I think down the stretch we play the Giants, we play the Panthers. We definitely have some winnable games, but as we said, 7-8 wins. We'll see if I definitely think we can beat the Chargers at home. We'll see how that all turns out, but they're an inconsistent team. We're seeming to be a bit on the rise. Definitely. I don't know. We'll just have to see, I guess.
Yeah, especially going forward against those weaker teams. I think really what you want to see as Packers fans is some execution and some learning. I think that at pretty much every position, this young team has shown flashes of incredible abilities. And, you see Jordan Love, he can make the throws and the defenders can make those plays. But, what I think I'd like to see, and Packers fans at large would like to see is just that consistency and minimizing the mistakes. Penalties have played a large part. And when you play a lot of close games, I think, I'd like to see less penalties and less interceptions.
Yeah, I think another thing to note is definitely maybe a little less these last couple games, but injuries played a role for sure. We've had Aaron Jones has been injured at times. Jair has been injured at times. Really, the defense has been banged up quite a bit, and especially with a young roster already, it's not always. It's definitely not going to be smooth with all those injuries, and hopefully we can get guys healthy and we can string some wins together. But probably not going to be a playoff team. as I predicted. But hopefully, we'll just see signs of improvement. So, yeah. All right. So, from the Packers to let's take a bigger picture at the entire NFL. We've kind of alluded to some of it, but um, I think the first thing that we should mention the teams from the Super Bowl. I mean, a lot of people would imagine that they would be great, but definitely Eagles and Chiefs should be right in contention if they're not going to be. Well, they're both the number one seed. Yeah, if they're not going to be in the Super Bowl, they're probably going to be very close. They're going to be, the Chiefs certainly have a lot of playoff experience. The Eagles have been there the last couple of years, so um, definitely look like two tough teams to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would be shocked if we see the same matchup.
Yeah,
They're two good all around teams that are just real solid and
pretty quarterback.
haven't had any hangover from last year.
Yeah, and I think actually with both those teams, I mean, they haven't played the cleanest of football all the time, but they've just found ways to win. That's what you're looking for. And actually, I'm going to point out we're going to talk about our predictions. If you forgot, you can check the video from mid-August or so. But neither of us picked either the Chiefs or Eagles in the Super Bowl, so that definitely looks like we could regret that.
It's true. I mean, it's football. A lot
Yeah,
could happen, but yeah, you don't always expect to see that consistency that you see in other sports. But these two teams
yeah.
have really, have really shown out this year.
Yeah, just finding ways to win. Another really whole division that has found ways to win. The AFC North really seems pretty impossible to predict right now. All four teams above 500, all four teams within a couple games of each other. Right now, it's the Ravens sitting at 7-3 in first place, but they took a tough loss in the hands of the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers are right there, unfortunately beating our Packers, and then the Bengals. You never can count out them. They're in last, but at 5-4. So four teams that not only are good now, but could make noise. Certainly, a couple of them come playoff time.
Yeah, no, I mean that division it's just fun to watch, man. It's
Yeah,
you go through Sundays and there's not always a lot of great games, but that division delivers every week, and I think it's just going to be just as football fans fun to watch that division down the stretch.
yeah. I mean, in looking this week, all those teams' games were decided by within a possession. Only two of the teams won, the Browns and the Steelers, but definitely when those four teams when they go head to head, it's going to be probably coming right down to the wire. Would not be surprised. um, but yeah, I think, and then the Steelers, one team from that division who has certainly not played the best of football, but they just find ways to win. And I think if their offense can just figure it out a little bit, they could really be a threat in the AFC. I mean, right now they have the third best record actually in the AFC. They'd probably be the 5 seed. So yeah, they're that you can't count out them certainly, even though they haven't looked amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, just like we saw today, if they're not gonna beat you by a lot.
Yeah,
They don't have the star power that you've seen out of past Steelers teams, but it is just traditional gritty Pittsburgh football. No
yeah,
matter how many times they get outgained, they just keep winning. And I think they're probably the weakest team in that division, just because you could see them falling off in the second half of the season, just as
yeah.
unless they find ways to improve that offense. I mean, they leave themselves vulnerable, but they've got a toughness about them that is just really important come January and February.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the two teams that won this week in that division would probably be considered the two weakest teams in that division right now, the Steelers and Browns. But it seems impossible to predict right now, which we tried to do earlier, and mixed results for sure. We'll get into that. in a bit. But what we will get into right now, the Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk a little bit about them. Right now, sitting at I believe the 5 or 6 seed in the NFC. Um, and they've dominated bad competition for sure. The Patriots, they destroyed the Giants a couple times, including yesterday's game. They looked, they looked quite good, especially on offense. But I don't know. I feel, for me personally, I feel a little vulnerable about this team. They got absolutely beat up by the 49ers. It's just, when they play teams that are true contenders in the NFC, it could be difficult for them, especially come playoff time.
It certainly does feel like a traditional Cowboys team, where they're gonna have a lot of hype surrounding them. They're everyone's favorite team to hate. But I think that, they seem to do this every year, man. They have this identity where they play really good football against the weaker half of the league, and then when it comes time, I mean, Mike McCarthy just finds ways to lose. We talk a lot
Yeah.
about teams finding ways to win, and I think they have the talent to match up with the 49ers and the Eagles and those teams at the top, but they just seem to not deliver when it comes time.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be obviously one of the biggest questions come playoff time because, take a pretty big fall off for them to miss the playoffs. They look like certainly a good team. It's just a question, can they compete with the Eagles, the Lions, to the 49ers, some of those top tier teams in the NFC? And, um, you know,
And when it comes playoff time, they're going to have to do it on the road too.
yeah. And yeah, from what we've seen so far this year, they lost to the Eagles, they lost to the 49ers, they also lost to the Cardinals, although that was more of a fluke game. Joshua Dobbs. He's looking good in Minnesota, by the way. But yeah, I think the Cowboys should be, they should be in the playoff mix. Probably just what they've done the last
They're
couple
the
of years. So,
Cowboys.
yeah.
They're the Cowboys.
One team that has surprised a little bit in a bad way. I mean, they're still definitely in the playoff mix. The Buffalo Bills, who will play tonight on Monday Night Football against the Denver Broncos, feels like a game they should find a way to win. But they're sitting at 5-4. They've lost several close games. Both of us were pretty high on them in the rankings, our predictions. So, Mr. W, what do you think about this Buffalo team? Do you think they can turn it around in the second half?
I mean, when you got that quarterback, you're always, you always got some chips on the table. You always got a shot. I think Josh Allen is this cinematically and for entertainment wise, wonderful, wonderful character who always delivers something. It might be 4 interceptions, it might be 4 touchdowns, but I think he always gives them a chance, and I think I really do like them to sneak into the with a wild card spot. I think over a long season they'll get enough wins. But yeah, I don't think they'll do much in the playoffs. I don't think they're a team that's built to last in when the times get tough. They're yeah, we've seen it year over year, and then we've seen it with Bills teams that have been 1 seeds and really high seeds, where they, them and Josh Allen just can't seem to fit, 3 or 4 solid games together, and that's again with teams that have had really good records. So I would bet the mortgage against this Bills team.
Yeah, come playoff time, I think a couple of keys, like you said, they do have a great quarterback in Josh Allen, and whenever you have a great quarterback, you have a chance for sure. And I will also point out, I think they're only a game back in the division race for the Dolphins. So yeah, they could still win the division. They have the head to head on the Dolphins, so watch out for that. But definitely, they should probably beat the Denver Broncos. If they lose that, then times could get tough. But certainly, when you have a great quarterback, you cannot count out the Bills. And I mean, we'll see. I mean, It's only been a few years. We'll see if they can be competitive again with Kansas City and Cincinnati and I guess Baltimore now, some of the top teams in the AFC. We'll see come playoff time. But first, we'll see if they can beat the Broncos here tonight. Um, so, in looking at some of the rest of the Week 10 scores, I think one of the big ones to look at, the Detroit Lions taking care of the Chargers on the road. I think, let's talk about the Chargers first. I mean, they're right around 500. I think they're 4-5 now. And it's a tough loss, but I think you got to feel good about their offense. The defense certainly this week didn't look too good. Last week, they dominated the Jets on Monday Night Football. So they're an inconsistent team. The question is, can they be competitive in the playoffs? Tough loss to the Lions, but didn't look too bad, I wouldn't say. And then, from the Lions' perspective, big time win on the road. I mean, they've had a few of those at Kansas City, the opening game, a couple. I think, they've dominated some other good teams. Packers on the road. That was, not that we're a great team, but still an impressive win. For them, from their perspective, they look like a good team, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, this week was a lot of bad teams losing games. I mean, you look across the board, the Patriots, the Panthers losing games. One team, and it wasn't really surprising, but the 49ers pounding the Jaguars.
Yeah, to that extent.
It stood out just because they didn't just beat them. They beat them real bad. And I think that shows the class of those teams at the top. And while you will always have those second tier challengers, I mean, it was just a real big statement from the 49ers coming off their losing streak to not just go back to winning ways, but to do it like that.
Yeah, they had a tough losing streak. They had a bye week last week to get prepared for the Jaguars. Next week they will host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so definitely another winnable game for sure. We'll see what they can do there. I'll point out one other game: the Atlanta Falcons losing to the
Oof,
Arizona Cardinals.
he's back.
Yeah,
Kyler's
Kyler's
back.
back. They found a way. I mean, I think several head coaches are in the hot seat right now. I think Arthur Smith could be one of them in Atlanta, especially after losing the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the main storylines here from the Week 10 NFL in the NFL season. But I think, we covered it decently there. Let's look at our predictions for the NFL season. And as we talked about, me, Mr. M, and my partner here, Mr. W, we're gonna just look through our predictions here. Both of us have some good picks, and then certainly some that we regret now. I think I will start with probably the one that stands out the most in the NFC East. I didn't have the Eagles. I didn't have the Cowboys. Heck, the Commanders could have been even a better team to pick at this point. The Giants, I had them win that division, buying in a little too much to last year. I think we both had them in the playoffs, losing the divisional, but definitely winning the division is.
Yeah, but only one of us had them as the 2 seed.
Yeah, that was interesting. And boy,
I mean, maybe you know what? Maybe they were on the table 9-8. We'll see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see. It's just one of those teams with when you have Daniel Jones at quarterback, you should probably know that it's more of a 1 year wonder team. Last year it felt like they were going to be quite improved for this season, but this year they've lost and they've lost bad. I mean, Cowboys have beaten them up a couple times. The Seahawks, I think, destroyed them. A couple other teams. So yeah, the Giants nowhere close as of now to playoffs probably will not see that change.
Yeah, I mean, we both had them winning a playoff game, which obviously is not going to happen.
yeah,
But yeah, no, they've been a bit, not a bit. They've been very disappointing, and I think we probably aren't the only ones that bought into the hype, but
yeah.
they have not delivered. Um, my worst one is the Panthers. You know, I had them winning the division. I believed in Bryce Young, man. I
Number one
believed.
pick. Yeah.
You know, I thought that'd be exciting, or at least be able to take advantage of a weak division. But I mean, it's just been.
Mm,
You all have watched the games, you know. It's been a pretty brutal watch.
they're the one team in that division that looks like they're kind of out of it unless some miracle happens. Um, I'll point out a couple things that I like here. I have the Steelers as the 7 seed, which I definitely think is possible. They just, as we've talked about, they find ways to win. It's not always going to be pretty, but they're definitely could be a playoff team, and they could even make noise in the playoffs. And I think they were kind of that one team in that division that a lot of people didn't like in the preseason predictions, but I do like that. And then the Texans I have as second in the division. I didn't have them make the playoffs, but they're right there in contention. C.J. Stroud has looked amazing. They knocked off the Bengals in an amazing game earlier today, so they definitely could even make the playoffs. And then the Saints winning the NFC South. Right now, they're leading that lame division. I mean, we'll see how if
You
they
know,
can close
you
it.
know, I love the positivity, but I think what me and what all the listeners want to know
Yeah, yeah.
is where did you have the Dolphins in your preseason picks?
I didn't have them number one. I didn't have them number two, and for some reason, I had them even below the Patriots. So, that I will regret right there as well. Um,
I mean, they've been electric. They've
yeah,
been
Tua's
electric
looked really good. I
and
mean,
healthy, which
yeah,
is
which
important.
the Bills could still contend with them in the division. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers could come back eventually, and I mean, their defense is so good. If they had a good quarterback, they could also contend. Certainly, though, the Patriots, that I definitely shouldn't have had them below the Patriots. So, and then one other one I will look at here, the NFC West. I had the Rams making the playoffs as a 6 seed. I thought, I mean, it's still not over, as we've talked about. The NFC's pretty lame. I thought the Rams could contend with Matthew Stafford, being more healthy. They got a great receiving core. They still have Aaron Donald, but just has not been put together really, especially these last couple games. And, um, it definitely doesn't look too good. I had them ahead of the Seahawks and making the playoffs. So, yeah, couple rough picks for sure in my predictions.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're not, the experts, um, but I think it does go to show that football is tough to predict.
Yeah.
It's obviously with the amount of injuries that happen, but that it makes it all the more exciting. And then when you can look back and it's only been a few months, and you got a lot of stuff wrong, I think that's why they play the game, and it's what makes the sport that we love.
Yeah, I will point out over here, looks like somebody didn't have a lot of faith in the Seattle Seahawks.
I didn't. And that's fair to call me out for that. Maybe that's me, still resenting them
Yeah,
for the fail Mary all those years
NFC
ago.
championship.
It's still living in my memory, but yeah, no, they've been good, and they've
Yeah,
been yeah.
I
I didn't
mean,
expect them to repeat on last year's success. I thought that would be a bit of a fluke, but they, you know, they haven't written me back.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're built maybe for winning a playoff game, but they've beaten teams that they should for sure. I think, well, a couple weeks ago they got destroyed by the Ravens. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would trust them come playoff time, but I think as of now they've definitely looked better than really both of us expected. So good for you Seahawks fans out there. All right, I think yeah, that pretty much covers here our predictions. Most of the good picks, bad picks.
It's November. It's getting cold out. The leaves have
Yeah,
fallen, so I think we should talk. We should talk some basketball, Em.
yeah, true. Yeah, I think let's talk about those Milwaukee Bucks. I think in a few months when it starts getting more into playoff time, we'll start talking about some of those other teams. But the Milwaukee Bucks, of course, the big news of signing Damian Lillard in the offseason. They did have to get rid of Drew Holiday for that, but now they have two of the top 10 players in the NBA with pretty much no debate there. And big boost to the 3-point shooting there. It's just a great weapon to have now. It hasn't completely worked for the Bucks so far. They're off to a bit of a shaky start, losing the last couple games, but um, definitely long term, I think still a lot to be excited about for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as a Bucks fan, I think it's a move that is a bit controversial. With Drew being
Mm.
such an important piece of the championship and the team over the last few years, but I think it's one of those moves that you like to see your team taking that risk and trying to win one more. It's as as much as he does seem like a Greek god, Giannis's window won't last forever. So I think it's, especially for a small market team, it's exciting and it's rewarding to see them going out and making the big moves. It's been a bit underwhelming so far, but I think it brings some excitement to the Five Serve, night in night out.
Yeah, I mean, you can't talk too much about the any NBA team through only 10 games. I mean, we've had definitely some games where we just look quite bad. We've found ways to win though. And I think, part of the reason why we've struggled is, the other big offseason news of getting a new head coach, Adrian Griffin. Definitely, just trying to adjust to the system. I think Giannis has started to figure it out the last couple games, even if we're still struggling a bit. And hopefully, long term, we can start to string together some wins and become more of a playoff threat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NBA is in a league where the one seed is crucial. We saw the Heat last year, but also the year the Bucks won the championship. Was the year they were the 3 seed. Like, I think there's not. While the results haven't been great, obviously, I don't think there's too much to panic about yet.
Yeah.
I think it's we're still a very talented team, and hopefully, as the guys and the coach start to figure each other out and start to mesh, I think we'll see a team that will climb up the standings slowly, and I think hopefully we'll get hot at the right time because this is a team that, given the right momentum and the right health, could very well compete for a championship.
Yeah, I think, and as you kind of said last year, the Heat as the 8 seed, not only knocking off the Milwaukee Bucks, but going all the way to the championship. Definitely, even if we have a bit of an inconsistent season all year long, I think come playoff time, I think when you have Giannis, when you have Damian Lillard, it's going to be tough to stop for sure, even if the other team has home field advantage or whatever.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, we've won the close games so far, and hopefully that's a sign of to come. I mean, obviously Dame has incredible and completely deserved reputation for being clutch. And I think between him and Giannis, we have a couple finishers. And if we can figure out how to get leads, I think we'll be a tough team to put away because you know we have now two guys who are really big in the big moments, and I think that's going to be crucial to a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I'll point out one more thing. I think you kind of said it. We're winning the close games, kind of like what we said with the Pittsburgh Steelers so far. Question is, I mean, I would think we seem like more of a contending team. And of course,
I would hope. I would hope.
it's been early in the year, but as we talked about, the Steelers, their defense really good. We'll see what they can do. But the Bucks, um, yeah, I think definitely question: will we get another championship? Will not really be answered. Really, whatever we do this season. I mean, whether we win 48 games or 58, I think regardless, we're going to be a tough go at it. And you look in the East, I mean, 76ers have struggled in recent playoff runs. The Celtics maybe are the one other team that definitely look like they can contend with us. The Heat are always problematic, though, as well. I mean, but I don't think there are too many teams that you can really say.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's a pretty wide open conference when you look across the board. There's not a whole lot of teams that scare us, and I think that should give us enough, some time to figure this out and hopefully, you know, put together a defense.
Yeah.
Because that's really what this team, obviously, a great offensive team, but over the past few years with Drew, with Giannis and Burke at the rim, I think we've been a team that's ultimately our success has been built upon our defense. And I think that hopefully as the season goes along, we can build that.
Yeah, the defense so far has been a bit problematic, but as you said, still early in the year. Hopefully, we'll be right in the mix. I mean, we're still only 3 games back when you look at it. So yeah. But let's go from one Milwaukee team to the other one. Maybe a little less in contention right now, the Milwaukee Brewers. And obviously, so far, the one big news for the Brewers is their manager, Craig Counsell, heading not only away from Milwaukee, but to their arch nemesis, the Chicago Cubs. So, Mr. W, that's going to be quite irritating to see him in Cubs shirt, Cubs hat, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean I think it's a betrayal, and it's something that you hate to see in sports when your hometown guy um, leaves to your rivals for big money. I think it hurts a bit as a fan, especially when you're passionate about it. Um, but they the Cubs certainly put their money into it, and as a Brewers fan, I think hopefully what we'll see is that we can hire someone, whether from within or not, who will be able to keep the same energy and momentum and rhythm that we've seen that keeps getting us to the playoffs. Hopefully, we can not need to change up too much without him and keep our success going. And hopefully he's not worth the money for the Cubs, and they just spent a lot of money to not change much. It's all we can really hope for right now. Is there's a long time to meditate on it before the season. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'd be optimistic just because the Cubs haven't really been threatening the last couple of years. I think that they're more than a manager away. So
Yeah.
hopefully we see. You'd like to take the high road and wish them the best, but I think as Brewers fans, we just need to sit back and wish them the worst.
Yeah, I think for the Brewers' perspective, we still have a solid roster. Contreras, Christian Yelich, some other guys who are stepping up last year, and especially pitching staff should still be solid. And I think that the other thing of note, I mean, you mentioned the Cubs, and I think those other 3 teams are not really true contenders: the Cardinals, Reds, and Pirates at a division title. So definitely with the fact that we're in that kind of division, even though we don't have Craig Counsell, we should still be in contention to make the playoffs.
And hopefully now we'll be able to win some playoff games.
Yeah, that's been the problem for Craig Counsell's time for sure. Yeah, we'll see.
So hopefully he'll take that with him to Chicago.
Yeah, I will point out as well one more thing about the Craig Counsell situation. It kind of reminds me, I wasn't really into it yet, but when Brett Favre went from the Packers shortly after that to the Vikings, kind of, the one other situation where guy went to the absolute worst place to go to, and um, they had one season of success there, couldn't win a Super Bowl though ultimately, so we'll take it, and then shortly faded away after that. So we'll see if that's the case for the Cubs as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a sad day as a Brewers fan. Even if he's not your favorite manager, but he's certainly built a culture of sustained and consistent, at least regular season success. That you'd like to think that the great core of players we have returning can keep going even in his absence. And there's plenty of other good managers out there, and hopefully the status quo will stay the same.
Yeah, and I mean, they could be another team. The Bucks adding a new manager. The Brewers will add a new manager in soon enough time. They could be another team that gets off to a bit of a slow start, but as we said, especially in the division that they're in, should still be in the mix to hopefully be a playoff team. We'll see, and maybe, as you said, win playoff series here and there.
And as we saw this postseason, all you got to do is get there, get to
Yeah.
the playoffs, and then get hot. So
Yeah, or beat the Brewers, I guess.
I mean, that seems to be the consistent method for success, but I don't think we can. I don't think that'll work.
Can't really beat ourselves. Yeah.
I mean, well,
I guess we can.
we do seem to be pretty good at that, actually. But
yeah. Don't have too many. Well, yeah, we'll just see this regular season. Obviously, hopefully we'll be in contention come playoff time and maybe win a series and maybe even make the World Series. We'll see. But I think that pretty much covers some of the big topics here and some of recent sports and the sports news. Obviously going through all the Packers stuff as tough as it is right now, but I definitely think it can get better. From the NFL to our predictions, which are interesting to say the least. To Damian Lillard, to the Bucks, and to the Brewers. So we're gonna close it out here with our Super Bowl picks. And if you guys forgot, I had the San Francisco 49ers face off against the Buffalo Bills, with the Bills winning.
And I had the Bengals beating the Cowboys in the big game.
So obviously the big question is, should we change our Super Bowl picks? And I'll start here. I definitely am going to keep the 49ers there, and I am going to keep the Bills here as well. I mean, it's still only week 10 in the season. It's been up and down ride, as we said, for the Bills, but they might not get past the divisional round, but I think with Josh Allen, you can never count them out. And when you have a great quarterback, you can definitely trust him. So I'm going to keep that Super Bowl pick until it's probably until one of those teams are eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're in a better place than I am. I think the Bengals and Cowboys are just two teams that, at this point in the season, look like really solid playoff teams, but not teams that can make a deep run. As much as I do hate to change my pick and have to admit that I'm wrong, I really don't think the Cowboys can make a run. Having seen them play enough games now and enough games against top opponents, I think the Eagles will swoop them up and we'll get to face off against the Bengals. I still like the Bengals. I think that the AFC is very crowded, and I think that anyone can come out of there. So Why
Yeah.
not a team who's gotten there before, and a team who's coming out of a real good division.
Yeah, I think with the Bengals, they're 5-4. They haven't looked amazing, but they've improved recently, and I think that's really with them and the Bills. I think the fact that they have a great quarterback who's been in the playoffs and deep playoff runs could bode well for them. I shouldn't say should, but and then from the Cowboys' perspective, I mean, yeah, definitely. They've beaten bad teams, not so much good teams. Um, yeah, it's just going to be tough for them maybe to, especially against like the 49ers or the Eagles to find a way to win those. But yeah, so that's pretty much it here. We went through all the stuff. So that about wraps it up here for episode number 2 of the MW Sports Show. As usual, make sure to like and subscribe and comment with any suggestions. And hopefully, you enjoyed our discussion today. Also, be ready in more or less mid January for the next episode, which will include our official NFL playoff picks. So be on alert for that. But that does it for us here today. And we will see you next time.
Go Pack, go!
For sure. Run the table. Yeah.